Almost every parent knows the routine: the closed mouth, the shaking head, and pushing a bowl away. Friends, family, and parenting blogs usually offer the same reassurance. They tell you it is a developmental phase that every toddler eventually outgrows. Pediatric feeding disorder manifests through physical indicators: gagging, choking on textures other children handle easily, and meals that end in tears. When those struggles happen daily, they begin to threaten the child's basic nutrition, leading to a failure to gain weight at an expected age-appropriate rate. When extreme physical distress and nutritional deficits persist, relying on standard advice for picky eaters risks missing a critical medical crisis. Clinical assessments often identify the cause of this extreme mealtime distress as pediatric feeding disorder. This chart maps the boundary between typical development and feeding disorders. Tracking behavior duration, reaction intensity, and growth impact pinpoints where intervention is necessary. The condition frequently overlaps with AFRID. Expanding the visual reveals shared traits, though they remain distinct diagnoses. Navigating the precise differences between these conditions requires a licensed clinician performing a formal assessment, rather than relying on parental guesswork. Securing that official diagnosis is the required first step. It shifts the focus away from the stigma of a stubborn child and directs attention toward treating a legitimate physiological challenge. To understand the challenge, we have to look closely at the underlying mechanics of how a child's body processes the act of eating. This diagram illustrates the sensory component. When a child experiences typical food textures, neurological pathways incorrectly route the input to the brain's distress center, triggering alarms. Beneath this lies oral motor failure. Representing chewing and swallowing as gears, physical discoordination prevents the system from turning smoothly. When sensory alarms misfire while the physical chewing mechanism stalls, ordinary bites of food become genuine choking hazards. The child's extreme reaction at the dinner table is a rational biological panic response to this mechanical system failure. Repairing that system failure requires a specific clinical approach known as behavioral feeding therapy. This treatment operates as a multidisciplinary effort, combining the expertise of pediatricians and occupational feeding specialists alongside direct coaching for the family. Therapists slowly introduce new textures, carefully widening the child's categories of acceptable foods at a pace that keeps them physically safe and comfortable. Through this measured process, the daily physiological battleground of mealtime is replaced by a structured environment of gradual rehabilitation. Accessing this level of highly specialized therapy often presents steep geographic and financial barriers for families. In Georgia, MentalSpace School bridges this gap by embedding culturally competent K-12 mental health and specialized support directly into local education networks. They deploy dedicated therapist teams to individual schools and offer same-day teletherapy, bypassing the typical waitlists and travel requirements. Looking at this outcomes dashboard, the impact is clear. By accepting multiple insurance plans and offering $0 Medicaid options, MentalSpace removes the cost barrier. This results in an 89% improvement in attendance, a 92% reduction in anxiety, and an 85% family satisfaction rate, all while maintaining strict HB 268 compliance. Providing immediate, barrier-free access to specialized teletherapy takes an exhausting family crisis and turns it into a solvable medical challenge. It restores healthy growth to the child and finally brings peace back to the dinner table.